Welcome everybody. We have another wonderful episode, and today I am super happy and grateful to introduce a wonderful lady that I met at the Green Acre event this past weekend, Sherilynn, right? And she is the CEO of QDHome Quest in Edmonton. Okay, so now I know that you've been in business for many years, so I will let you do your own introduction. But please tell the audience a bit about your company, a bit about yourself, and the wonderful city of Edmonton.
Well, it's sunny today, so that's always good. Myself, I've been an investor since 2006, professional full-time real estate investor. Before that, I was in business, customer relations and management, and have a business degree, summa cum laude. But I didn't want to be a part of the rat race anymore, so wanted my own business, and real estate is definitely a wonderful business to be in because you can do as much or as little as you want. You can be as hands-on as you want, or you can have professional managers. You know, there's so many possibilities. So, and it holds my attention because it's always changing, which is something that doesn't happen in a lot of industries. So I just love it. I've been specializing in suited houses first, and then from there moved on to rent to own or lease options, and also agreements for sales. So all kinds of creative financing, both purchasing and sales that way. And again, the suited houses, which are fantastic for regular rentals.
Okay. So now, if you were to give a tip to somebody who's looking at investing in the Edmonton area, what tip would that be?
Well, suited houses is my biggest tip, really, because we're very suite friendly here. So they, even if you buy a house with a non-conforming or illegal suite, it's not a big hassle usually to get it approved, and you know, you get it inspected and upgraded, and then the cash flow is just amazing. And because we're secondary suite friendly, people are used to renting basement suites and having the main floor and basement level suites. So it's a great way to get extra cash flow. Otherwise, for Edmonton specifically, it's kind of funny because the quadrants are very divided, not, you know, mentally divided, because for instance, the Southwest is very expensive to buy usually, but the rents aren't really that much higher than other quadrants. So being you know, knowing your geography of the area is important, of course.
Yes, absolutely. So now, just to clarify, the term suited housing or suited properties, in Toronto, we don't call it that, right?
Okay.
So just for some of the viewers watching who might not be familiar with that term, can you expand on what that actually means, and what other terms are used to describe that type of property?
Sure. It's any property that has a secondary dwelling. So that's usually a basement suite here, but it could also be a garage suite. Either the garage itself is a separate dwelling, or above the garage is you know, a granny flat sort of thing.
Okay.
So there's three different possibilities for the secondary dwelling, and but because it's most commonly a basement suite here, people usually refer to them as suited houses, or even up-down duplexes. Because actually, for a while, there were some purpose-built suited houses where they were up-down duplexes with the basement and main level. They're, as I say, they're very common here, and it works really well.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So now so just to follow on that train of thought, there's the up and down scenario, and then is the front and back also considered in that category as well?
Yes, there can be, but more often those are official duplexes, a front and back duplex. So if it's purpose built as a duplex, then it's not called a secondary suite.
Okay.
So, and usually that's the case there.
Okay. And now there was a recent change that happened in Edmonton that has been very well received by investors in Edmonton. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
I'm not. Oh, Do you mean the duplexes
Yeah,
allowing secondary suites?
yeah.
Oh, yes. Yes, now for the first time, row houses and duplexes can have secondary suites in the basement. And for the longest time, they said, no, that'll never happen, that'll never happen, that'll never happen. And there are a lot of suited duplexes. So it's acting like a fourplex. You've got your side-by-side with the two basement suites. I lived in one when I was about 20, but they've always had the thought that they will never possibly be legal. So anytime an investor was to look at purchasing or selling one of those, there's always that risk because you have to be really careful how you advertise it because, oh, you might get discovered. Well, now they are actually able to be legalized. So yes, we are pretty excited about that.
Yes, exactly. And so it gives the opportunity for better cash flow, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Right, exactly. So that's actually a very favorable thing that is drawing a lot of investors from outside of the Edmonton area to come into Edmonton.
Absolutely. Yeah, the cash flow on suited houses or any property with a secondary dwelling, the cash flow is amazing because if you think about it, for a regular house here, you might get, let's say, $1,800 to $2,000 a month. But if you've got a secondary suite, that rent is actually more like $2,600 to $2,800 a month. And that's a huge difference. Plus, your tenants get a benefit too, because instead of paying to heat a whole house, they're only paying their portion of heating. So it actually reduces their utility bills too. So everybody wins.
Right. Right, absolutely. So now, just for the listeners, in order to get that legal classification, there is some HVAC and some other building structural codes things that you have to meet. So before you go down that path and just think, hey, you know what, I can buy this house and convert it into the legal suites, reach out to Sherilynn or myself and make sure you get the proper information before you go down that path. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So now this is a great lead-in to why I wanted to bring you on the call today, because you are going to be doing something really interesting that every investor who is looking at buy and hold strategy should be aware of. Okay. Now I've been doing buy and hold for 20 years. And so I've been a landlord for 20 years. And so I know the ups and downs and all the headaches that come with it. And I understand that you are going to be doing a program of some sort for landlords.
I am. At first, I've got some great free information that I think we'll be providing the links for. And I encourage everyone to have a look at it about the biggest, most critical mistake a landlord can make is the report I created, and it covers a few things that people don't generally think about with tenant screening. And because I firmly believe that the biggest cause of landlord nightmares is selecting the wrong tenant. I think we can all relate to that, but the training is going to be on so much more than that. It's going to be on full tenant screening, fraud detection, and setting up a successful tenancy with proper documentation that is strong enough to protect you, and also set up the expectations for the tenant and the rules and regulations and everything else to really make it clear. Here's what's going to happen in this tenancy, and leave no excuses for some of these landlord nightmares. And it's, it's funny, I've presented the topic, a couple of the topics on stage, and I've had even professional property managers come up to me and ask if I could train their staff, because I've trained my staff to go beyond the normal tenant screening process and just dig a little deeper, because it is absolutely amazing what some people are trying out there right now. The attempted fraud that we had on one application just blew my mind. It would definitely be the cause of a landlord nightmare.
And one of the things that I agree with, that I hear from a lot of other landlords, is that it's better to have a vacant unit than to have somebody move in that's going to be the worst tenant imaginable, right?
Absolutely. A
And
vacancy is always cheaper than a bad tenant.
yes, exactly. So now you mentioned some of those the critical mistakes. What are maybe the 4 or 5 top critical mistakes that you see that commonly come up?
Well, the most critical mistake is the tenant screening and selecting the wrong tenant.
Mhm.
The other mistakes that I see as big landlord mistakes, I'm actually not covering in this particular course. I might be covering them in future courses, but those are obviously selecting the wrong property, which is one that doesn't cash flow. I mean, people say location, 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 but a great location doesn't mean it's going to make you money. So yeah, you can have a great house in a great location. For you to live in yourself doesn't mean it's a great rental property. So that's another huge factor in being a successful landlord, is picking a property that actually will cash flow.
Right. And actually that's an interesting point, because in Toronto, the property values are so much higher, right? So you buy this property for $1 million and you're renting it out for a couple of $1,000s, right? And you're not going to cash flow because you have a mortgage. So unless you're going to be able to pay the majority of that property off, you're going to be in negative cash flow for a while, right?
Well,
Whereas
that's why you all need to invest with me in Edmonton.
All right. Now you mentioned about working with property management companies. So now what would you say to somebody who's like me, where I do most of my own property management, and for the properties where I'm not physically in the same city with, I actually hire individuals and personally train them so they become my own property manager. And what tips or suggestions would you give to somebody like me who does it that way, as opposed to hiring a firm to do property management for me?
Well, I think that both self-managers and people who hire their own staff and professional managers could all benefit from better tenant screening and tenant selection and stronger documents. So I would say the same thing to everybody. Take some training, whether it's from me or somebody else, but I don't know of anyone else offering it. Okay. But it's, as I say, even a professional property manager said to me that he would like me to train his staff because we were doing things and picking up on that fraud that other people would have missed. So having all of these tools in your tenant selection toolkit are really critical to make sure that you're protected and your assets are protected. And again, whether it's even if you have a professional property manager or staff doing it that you're training, it's really, you're the CEO of your company, whether you have 1 property or 100. You're the CEO of your rental property business, and it's ultimately your responsibility to make sure that the business is being run effectively and that you can protect yourself. So having these tools is really critical to make sure that happens, regardless of who's actually looking after the property.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So in the body of the description on this video, we will include a link for the website for the free report that you're talking about. And you mentioned that there was also an introductory video that.
Yes, after we sent out the report, we asked people to send in their questions on anything relating to landlording. So the video that I put out answers quite a few of those questions that came in. For instance, how to collect from a tenant and how to reward a 10-year tenant, a few other things as well. So just some more free information that is available to everyone.
Okay. So now if somebody wanted to attend this upcoming landlord course that you're offering, how would they go about doing that?
Well, we're going to be opening the cart for registration on Thursday, I believe. And so anyone who accesses the critical mistake report will actually be on our email list. So they'll be notified when the registration opens. Okay. And also, when you sign up for that report, for that email, our email system will automatically send out the video the next day, but I think we're going to be providing the link here in case people want to access it sooner.
That's right.
Because otherwise it all comes at once.
To get the information. That's right. Okay. Now the course is it online or is it an in-person course?
Yes, it's going to be 5 webinars and very interactive. So the registration is going to be limited because, you know, we want to make sure people get the full value out of it. So it will be limited registration, but 5 webinars plus I'll be providing all of the documents that I use and a bunch of other bonuses as well.
Okay. And is this limited to Edmonton, to Alberta?
Really anywhere that speaks English, because it's going to be in English.
Okay. Okay.
Because we're not focusing on the specific rules of any one province. It's going to be information that will be of use to pretty much anyone. For instance, just speaking provincially, every province has judgment search available, so you can find out if there are judgments against your tenant in tenancy court. So that's something that is, and of course the states will have that too. So there are tools that everyone can use, and I'll be providing my documents in Word format. So even if there's a standard lease that somebody has to use, they may be able to copy and paste, or even use some things as addendums. Mm-hmm. So there's you can either customize your own lease or use it as addendums to your lease.
Right. Okay. So that's the great thing about the program that you're offering, is because there's no lost time in transportation. Like there's nowhere that you physically have to go. You can do this right out from your home. And as a landlord who's, you know, getting out of the rat race, you want to maximize your time as best you can, right? And so you're talking about offering this course that will, if you screen your tenants right, you'll be able to get more of your time back. Because as a landlord, you don't want to be, you know, dealing with bad tenants. Right.
Well, that's right. And the whole point is that those landlord nightmares, having bad tenants who just cause a fuss and disrespect you and disrespect your property and the other tenants, and you're just always dealing with problems. And then when you finally get rid of them after they don't pay their rent, then you're dealing with damages and vacancy while you fix the damages. So selecting the best tenant is really going to save you so much time and so much money and so much headache. So that's why it's the most critical thing, to select great tenants. Absolutely. And shoot, lost my train of thought.
Yeah, it happens. And you know what? I absolutely agree with all of those things. I've been very lucky, like in the 20 years that I've been managing my own properties and properties for others, I've been able to screen tenants who, I actually have one tenant who's been with me 18 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So I definitely, you know, appreciate all the fine points that you're bringing up about picking the right tenants, because it's critical. And I think that has been one of the reasons why I've stayed in real estate, right? It's because it's been fairly easy for me to get good tenants, right? Because I can just imagine, like, I hear horror stories from my coaching clients that when they get a bad tenant, they want to stop investing, or
exactly.
They don't even want to start investing because they've heard of these horror stories.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And real estate is one of the best ways to grow your net worth, right?
Oh, absolutely. And then, I mean, as a retirement fund, it's wonderful because then you can either have your own staff and just oversee it from a distance, or have professional property managers and oversee it from a distance. So this is something that can provide passive income forever and provide a legacy for your children and grandchildren, or charities, or cat, whatever the case may be. And it's the best thing about it, aside from being passive, is real estate is automatically indexed for inflation. So, I mean, as inflation goes, so do rents and so do property values. So there really is no better investment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, awesome. Awesome. So we will be providing all of the information in the video itself. So just look over here and in the body of the description. Okay. Now, do you have any closing comments you would like to make to our viewers?
I guess the biggest thing for me is, again, to treat it like a business. You are the CEO. You are ultimately responsible. And if something isn't working, it's your fault, regardless of who it is looking after the property. It's your fault. So
that's hard.
So, I know, but it's true. So my point is to train yourself to learn everything you can so that you can effectively oversee your business and not be harsh with your tenants, but be businesslike. And yes, treat it like a business always.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, because I think one of the things I said to myself early on was that I'm not their social worker. And so once I got that into my head, I'm like, okay, yeah, you know what? This is a business. I'm here to make positive cash flow. And so, you know, if issues come up, I'm not their social worker.
Well, and that being said, I'm not mean, really.
No.
For example, we've had a couple tenants where things have happened and they've run into hard times, but they've been great tenants. So our attitude is that if you contact us in advance and make arrangements, yes, we will, if whenever possible, we will accommodate late payments or split payments or whatever the case may be. And as long as they follow through with the arrangements we've agreed on, then everything's wonderful. We have no late fees then, no penalties. Everybody wins. And the best thing is that now that tenant knows, wow, you know, another landlord might have evicted me. Another landlord might have said no, and then what would happen? So we have a few tenants who have stayed with us for years, specifically because we can be accommodating, and as long as everything turns out the way we discussed, then it's all great.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree with you on that. Like, I've got some tenants who actually send me thank you cards every year saying, hey, you're the best landlord ever. And it comes back not just as a thank you card, but when they come back and reapply for another one of my units, or when their family is changing, they call me and say, hey, Hong, do you have another unit available? Because I would prefer to stay within the units that you have as opposed to going somewhere else, right? Or when they recommend friends and family to me, right? So you're absolutely right on that. Like, it's a business relationship that you build with these tenants, right? And it's super important. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that really is the best thank you card you can ever get, is when a tenant comes back. We have one tenant who called us they had to move for geographic reasons because of a job, but every single year when their lease came up, they would phone us up and say, do you have anything in this area yet? Do you have anything in this area? So that's just the best thank you card you can ever get.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. All right. So please check out the free publication that is available along with the video. And if you have the available time, attend the workshop. I cannot stress how important it is to get that knowledge. Even if you use a property management company, for yourself as a landlord, as an investor, make sure you know how to screen tenants and how to run your properties profitably with good tenants. Absolutely. So 100% agree with your message. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in, and see you on the next video.